Good day, Chief here for CTT. I actually got online and watched a video how to set my camera for automatic focusing while filming a video. Very informative, but the guy that did the video basically would, show the image quickly, and by the time you'd click this, freeze it to see where you were at in the menu. So hopefully this works. I've done most of his major settings. I learned a little bit more about my camera, realizing that there's just so much information in these cameras nowadays, it's unreal. But as I stated last week, a lot of us warrant officers went TDY more often than we did as enlisted members, even though sometimes even as enlisted members they would tag along. So while I'm at Fort Lewis, inside the 201st MI Brigade, I would travel quite a bit. One of the trips we went to was Japan. I think it was the first one we did too. And when we got there, they cleaned out an enlisted member's barracks. And all the stories that you hear about how Japanese soldiers treat their enlisted is correct. The uniforms I brought and the clothing, because it was winter time, so I had field jackets. I did not have enough clothing to pad that slab that they called a mattress. And they're not kidding. They do literally have bricks for pillows. I did bring my own pillow. That was the only comfort I had trying to sleep at night. But we had fun. Basically, it was our staff met up with their staff for one fun evening. We basically went over the rules of the exercise that we were going to do, and then the booze came out, and Japanese get a little crazy. Shirts came off. There was like two guys that took their shirts off, so we had two bare-chested Japanese officers dancing and parading around at this function, and our commander was filtering through and said, no, don't take your shirt off, don't take your shirt off, don't take your shirt off. Not that I really wanted to. I mean, I don't want to be bare-chested in a room full of other bare men. So we had fun, but I was over there to do my captain function, so I was working in G3. So I didn't get to work in the ace where I normally would work. But I became very popular. And since I was I was a warrant officer. I was a W01 still for this exercise. It was early in my career as a warrant officer. So I'm a warrant officer 01, functioning as a captain, going to these brief, and for the G3 side of the house, I was asking for certain assets for the upcoming battles or engagements that would take place. And since I was only a W01 and not captains and majors sitting around asking for the same assets that I wanted, I never got them. I think I piggybacked maybe once or twice with a couple of the operations that we did. So it was kind of upsetting, because I was a fish out of water. You're just a warrant officer, we're not going to satisfy your needs, even though you're filling in for a captain. But some early in the exercise, probably even on day one, 3 Japanese, I think they were all lieutenants, very young looking men, got thrusted towards my direction because somebody said, oh yeah, the warrant officer over there, yeah, he normally works in the ace, but he also fulfills a G3 function. So they led him towards me because they were seeking intelligence to fight the battle. Well, I couldn't walk into the ace and take anything out because that would be against the rules. So I walked over there with them, and then I took them over there, and I got somebody out of there. I can't remember who. I got a fellow warrant officer, same MOS. I said, talk to these individuals, see what they need, see what they want, and see if you can fulfill their requirements, because they were also military intelligence for the Japanese side of the house, and we're here to help them out. And they were like, bowing and showing gratitude and everything else. So we do exercise during the day, and we basically would have the nights off. We would just exercise during the day, which is really strange because normally you go 24/7, but not this exercise. Nope, they just took their time, and nights were basically considered that everything shut down, and it did. And I went to the enlisted club with the enlisted members because they really didn't have an officers club, or they did, but they weren't doing anything. So a bunch of us warrant officers went with the enlisted members and had these big long tables, and I mean, if you push your chair back, you bumped into the guy in the next long table behind you. I think there were like 3 or 4 of them. So I mean, it was crowded. They brought in a Japanese singing group, you know the ones, the girls were really pretty, and of course all the Japanese soldiers were going crazy listening to them sing, and of course they were showing off their legs, you know, because they were in mini skirts and up there singing who knows what. And we're drinking. Well, I found out, even though we were drinking, I don't think we were drinking sake that night, were we? No, we weren't drinking sake. We were drinking beer, Japanese beer, and ugh. But I learned a trick, because, you know, you got this glass of beer. I don't have a glass, I have my cup. So you have your glass of beer, see-through, it's glass. So if you turned your head and you didn't put your hand over it, it would magically fill up, because the Japanese would sit there and pour his booze into your glass. So you had to learn to put your hand over it. So I learned that because I wasn't over there to get drunk and do something stupid and cause an international incident, so to speak. Not that I would want to. I also did not opt to go to a Japanese home off base to spend the evening. I just didn't. It just wasn't in me to do that. So we did the exercise, and we also had to bring gifts, because Japanese culture is very strong on gifts. But it's really strange. You give them your gift, they take the son of a gun home, and then they open it. But when you're presented with a gift, and I forgot to get them out, you're supposed to open your gift in front of them, and then of course show your appreciation. So I just don't understand why it's not the same for both ways, but that's how it was. So the last night that we were there, they got the big old drums, you know, I don't know what they're called. I'd have to look online, and they were sitting there, and they did a show, and we stood at tables. We didn't sit down. The tables were just high enough and low enough that they were, if you had a chair, it might work out, but you couldn't sit down at them, because then you'd be looking up at the tabletop. And also we drank sake that night, and we drank sake out of square wooden bowls. I mean, you had a square wooden bowl, and it's like, you know, drink from the corner. So you could drink, finally there was a vessel to drink from the corner. That's how you drank your sake. They weren't crazy about, you know, refilling your sake, because I think we had sake bottles, and plus I think we had some American beers and stuff like that to drink from. The food was very delicious. I can't remember all what we ate. The floor show was great. It was fantastic. And of course, I just didn't want to get drunk on sake. I've had sake before. I've been to Japanese restaurants stateside, and I bought a bottle of sake one time, and it's supposed to have been really good. I prefer my sake cold. A lot of people will do Sorry about that. I forgot to take my phone off the hook, and I'm not going to redo this video since I'm almost done with it. But like I said, with sake, I can drink it hot or cold, but I prefer it cold. So I didn't stay afterwards. After we ate and after we drank and did all our toasting, and then some people exchanged gifts there. Or we exchanged gifts. We gave gifts. They gave some gifts to our staff. We gave gifts to their staff from the command side of the house. So no biggie. They opened up we had to open up ours, but they didn't open up theirs again. So it's really strange, like I said, why it isn't both ways or two-way street. I have no idea. So as I'm leaving, I hear a commotion. And the commotion is these 3 Japanese lieutenants. They chased me, so to speak, and they had this big entourage, probably about 5 to 10 other officers, and in front is their colonel. And they're like, yes, this is the guy that led us to the path to get the military intelligence information that we use throughout the exercise, da 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 da. So he presented me, and I forgot, like I said, I forgot to get it out. I opened up the gift, and it was a bag that had a pull string on it. And then you open it up, and it was rice-filled balls that you could juggle with. Nope, I didn't take up juggling. I still got it. I almost gave it away one time to somebody that did juggle, and I'm like, nope, that's my memento from Japan. I think that's about the only thing I kept from Japan. I'll have to look in the war chest. And I couldn't wait to get back home to get into a bed because, like I said, I did not have enough uniforms to make that bed any softer. I could not. And then also they had a room on the barracks floor where you could do your laundry, but it was full of steam, and then you would hang your stuff, and eventually it would dry. But we didn't have to do that. We were only there, I think, for about maybe a week to 10 days before we went back home. And the city was just Tokyo. We drove through Tokyo. We landed at Tokyo, and I just could not believe Tokyo. They actually built one of the highways over the river because they ran out of land to build this highway. So they literally built it over the river, part of it. I just could not believe that. So this is Chief out. Remember, freedom is not free. Hopefully I'm in focus for the greater share of this video. I got a flashing red light. I don't know why, so I'm going to have to probably look some more up online. I've got all these menu items I can look at. So hopefully this video is fine. Chief out. Remember, freedom is not free. Pray for Ukraine, please.